number 16 of the 12th chapter. And what we're discussing after Bhagavan mentioned that in fact the Saguna Upasakas are Yuktatamas. So they are the ones, as if he's appreciating them. But later on, it appears, Bhagavan having mentioned that they're the best ones, he adds two more riders to it, mentioning that there are people who are Sarvakarma sannyasis and they are dedicated to him. They are Nirguna Brahma Upasakas. However, that is a difficult path. Therefore, Arjuna, follow the path of Saguna Upasana, because right now that is what you can. I mean, you cannot chew more than you can. You can't chew more than you can sort of digest. There's no point. Don't bite more than you can chew. So you sort of take what you can digest, what you can handle. So the spiritual truth about Nirguna Upasana is a higher order of connectivity with the divine principle that requires a lot of chitta suddhi. Right now, you still have a few issues with your sadhana. You had a bit of agony in the beginning, and we had that in chapter 3 and 4. I have explained to you, Bhagavan sort of indicates. And you also wanted to see my Vishwarupa, means you see me as different from you after hearing the secret that there is no difference between the Bhakta and the Bhagavan in chapter 9. That is the master secret Bhagavan revealed to him. Please understand this. After explaining the the Srishtivada and the Abhasavada in chapter 7 and 8, having explained all that this thing comes out of the lower Prakriti and higher Prakriti and what I am and how I'm everywhere. He explained everything. Even in chapter 10, he mentioned all his vibhutis for meditation, for making it very easy for him. Even then, he wanted to see Bhagavan, which means he wasn't able to sort of experience that non-difference with the divine. Not to blame him. That is a logical step towards the realization of the self. And Bhagavan is always full of compassion for us. He takes into account what we can understand, what we can't. And therefore, he says, Yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matparaha ananya eva yogena mam dhyanto pasate tesam aham samuddharta. So he's saying those people who are sort of doing the Saguna Upasana, I liberate them. I am the liberator. Mrityu sansara sagara. Bhavami na chirat partha. I don't delay too much. So have faith in me. Avesita chetasam. The people who are sort of established in me. And then he's advising you establish your mind in me in chapter 8 and the verse number 8 and 9 and 10. How to do this Saguna Upasana. First, you try to establish your mind in Bhagavan. If you cannot do it, okay, then you do the Abhyasa Yoga. If you cannot do it, then he would say that you do Mat Karma, be Mat Karma Para, do my work, do spiritual work. I cannot do it. Okay, then you do Sarva Karma Phalatyaga. Why? The karma's phala is kama or vasana, which you want to fulfill. By doing Sarva Karma Phalatyaga, you are actually hitting at the very foundation of why you want to do anything. So slowly you will have Vairagya. That's what Bhagavan explained. We have progressed further because today is the last day of this chapter. I'm doing a bit of revision. And then he's saying, Shreyohi Dhyanam Abhyasat Dhyanat Dhyanam Visishyate Dhyanat Karma Phalatyagas Tyagat Santir Anantaram. So that is what he's mentioning, that you can do certain abhyasa. But abhyasa with, it's if it doesn't fructify in self-knowledge, you will not get liberation. And therefore, jnana is better. What kind of jnana? You're talking about parokhya jnana. What is that tattva darsana that you need to have? However, if you get stuck with that academic understanding, you're still not proceeding any further. So are you not ready to do dhyana, which is nididhyasana here, jnana paraka. Therefore, that is superior. And then, but you cannot do dhyana. You are not so smart. He said, okay, the minimum you do. Bhagavan sort of makes a U-turn and motivates the bhakta saying, just do karma palatyaga. So you do antakarana suddhi. This is stuti paraka. Because Bhagavan immediately goes to verse number 13 where he's saying, do you know actually who is the one who is very superior, who is very close to me? He, having said, who is Yuktatama, who is very good, sir, in the class, he says, the guys who run after me all the time. Then he tells those students who have started running after that class teacher to keep him in good humor. He's saying, "Do you know whom I love most?" These students ask him, "Whom do you love, sir? Us?" He says, "No. I love the guy who scores highest in mathematics. The students who finish the course halfway through the coursework on their own, they put in a lot of hard work. Those I love because they don't need my attention. They're so smart. They're so dedicated." So Bhagavan is telling these students, don't waste your time too much. You run after me, not a problem. But you try to be, try to have that perseverance to achieve excellence. So Bhagavan immediately, verse number 13, what the things that we did, the commentaries yesterday, Adveshta Sarva Bhutana Maitraha Karuna Evacha Nirmumu Nirahankaraha Sama Dukha Sukha Khyamihi. So they have equanimity, equal vision of both happiness and sadness, and no aversion towards anyone, Sarva Bhutanam. Then an attitude of warm friendship and compassion, karuna, nirmamo. There is absolutely no possessiveness. Nothing is mine. I'm here for a while. I'm Brahman Eva. I'm Atma. I'm not this body. Who can have anything? This mind, not the self. And then nirahankara. I am this, I am that. These are names and forms. And then in the verse number 14, he says, Santushta Satatam Yogi, all the time contented. Alam pratyaya, yadrisha alam pratyaya. Whatever that comes their way, they're happy. Doesn't mean you're going to allow your boss in your office, having read Bhagavad Gita, if he is not giving you what you rightfully deserve as your bonus or your salary or as recognition. Don't confuse what is written here in your professional life. Don't get misled. He's talking about sadhana here. He's not talking about loka vyavahara. He's talking about what should be the mental attitude. You have to have alam pratyaya. Doesn't mean you're going to take in injustice in any form. Satatam yogi yatatma dridha nishchayaha mayapita mano buddhir yomada bhaktaha samipriyaha. This mind as well as intellect all surrendered to me. He's talking about sarva karma sannyasis. Now, this particular verse is not meant for somebody who's still in office, who's still in family. If somebody misbehaves with you in a marriage party, you have gone with your wife and children, are you going to just keep quiet, not reply to him? No, you need to tell him you didn't like it. So these verses are meant for a later day existence of a Jivana Mukta, somebody who has already achieved high level of purity and he has already left the material world behind. So these slokas are meant for them. We need to take them as our ideal to be able to reach there. So we need to do our niskama karma and we have to do our upasanas to reach there. These things are not achieved by trying to act as if you are contented. And that I will explain in the next sloka. By imitating this behavior, you don't get Atma Jnana. When you have some sort of proximity towards self-realization, these behaviors kind of fructify out of you, they manifest out of you, emanate out of you on their own. Because the root cause of raga, dvesha, or attraction or detachment, anger, or extra excitement or elation when you are getting something you love, these things are rooted in an identification with this body and with this ego self. When in this process we do our work and slowly we withdraw ourselves, living a social life or in a political life or in a business life, you cannot do that in real terms. You will have to do Lokika Vyavahara. However, internally you have to disconnect yourself for equanimity. Practice Gita. Doesn't mean in Loka Vyavahara there's a dog coming to bite you and then you say, okay, bite me, Gatabhyatha, I am not bothered. No, you are not going to do that. You remember that, keep remembering that story of Thakur Ramakrishna Paramahansa, where there was a mad elephant coming somebody's way, and there was another, devotee who ran away, but this one didn't, and the elephant threw him away. He said that, I was trying to practice non-violence, and I saw his Brahman, I'm Brahman, but he sort of used his, trunk and threw me away. And so Ramakrishna said, but you are also Brahman. There was a tree that was also Brahman. Why didn't you climb the tree? You know that that elephant is in a must state. He's must, what he's in heat. He's in a mad state. Why did you not understand this? These are laukika vyavahara. So this particular thing is about very deeper aspects of our consciousness when we are established in the Paramarthika Satya, not the Laukika Satya as to which government is now functioning, how well is the economy running. We are not dealing with those truths in these verses. So please be attentive that it doesn't create any unnecessary and unwanted confusion in our moral, ethical, and social life. Then, yasman no udvijate loka लोकानो उद्विदते च यः हर्षामर्ष भयोद्वेगै मुक्त यः स च मे प्रियः. The person who doesn't disturb anyone and who is not disturbed by even the most noxious, most disturbing element. Again, as we had discussed yesterday, it doesn't mean we are going to take in a lot of injustice. No. He's talking about his mental inner level, his inner integrity of his equanimity. Outside, he will still behave as is kind of expected of him in any situation of life. He shall do his duty. He's a Vidheya Atma. If he sees injustice, he might raise his voice. He will definitely do whatever he wants to do as per law, as per his station in life, as per the requirements of his station in life. However, inside he's sort of disconnected from all this and minimum of sort of involvement. And lokar no udvijate cha yaha, and he is also not disturbed by anyone. Harsha marsha, elation, or parashikatarata, or sort of jealousy or intolerance, bhaya, fear, udvega, anxiety, and he's free from all this. Why? These qualities are associated with ignorance of the self, the pure self. Because he is no more ignorant of the self. He is a Nirguna Brahman Upasaka. He is free from all this, and therefore he is very dear to me. When he is saying Same Priya, he is dear to me, you have to understand, he's actually saying he's Priya. Why? Because he is no different from me. Because he's already established in the self. And who is speaking all this? It's kind of that ultimate truth speaking through the name and form of Bhagavan Vasudeva. That here he's talking about the Nirguna Brahma Upasaka, who is verily no different from who he is. Then the verse number 16 that we had done yesterday, we had done the main meaning, we'll look at the commentary. Anapekshaha suchir dakhyaha, anapekshaha. He is not dependent on anything. He is nirapeksha. And what are the things that he may have apeksha? Like, for example, there's a king, there is an officer, he's always dependent on his driver. A husband is expecting his wife to give him good food. A son expects the mother to take care of him. Parents expect the children to pay respect of him. But this particular Nirguna Upasaka is that particular Shraddhavan Purusha who is looking for truth, looking for self-realization. He's nirapeksha. He's not expecting, having no expectations from anyone. Not even from himself regarding what he did not do. Like, for example, I want to do some upasana, Gayatri upasana or anything to achieve some spiritual powers. Those things also he doesn't have in mind. Suchihi, and he's always pure, externally and also internally. Dakshaha, a lot of people have sort of explained it in different ways. Certain commentators, the mainstream of Sankaracharya, Madhusudana, Saraswati, others, they say Daksha means he's adept at addressing the duties which are prescribed by the scriptures or whatever social situation in which he finds himself as a father or maybe, but we're talking about Sarvakarma sannyasis here and who have already completed their course of social life. But he's saying Daksha means he's expert in doing Sastrochita Vyavahara and Karma Sampadana. Whatever is expected of him, as per the scriptures, he can do it. He's an adept in all this. But he again will be mentioned Sarvakarma Parityagi. Look at the contradiction. He's expert in doing all the rituals. He's expert as per the scriptures. He's an adept. But he is not interested in doing any karma. Why? The karma phala creates a bondage. It's like if you buy a piece of land in a place far away from where you live, in order to maintain your ownership, you will have to travel there once in a year. to show to people that you own that piece of land, otherwise somebody will encroach it. That is the bandha. The karma, ownership. You wanted to have some ownership. Then you pay a price. And that applies to many things that we do in our lives. That is the karma phala. Therefore, sarvarambha parityagi. He doesn't want to start another karma which creates another bondage on him. Does it mean he'll not do whatever work, like he's a teacher, he's a father, he's a son? He'll not do this, he will do it. He will do nishkama karma without having any asakti in the karma phala. Then that is no more karma. Because he has explained earlier, the wise guy is the one who sees akarma in karma and karma in akarma. So he knows what is karma and akarma. What is central to karma and akarma? Agency and phalakankhya. If you have ahantva, mamatva, and I want to enjoy the fruits of this action, that is karma. Whether you are taking sannyasa or you are doing your office work. You are doing your office work, but you don't have this phalakankhya. You are detached. That is akarma. That is the secret he has explained earlier. He is sarva arambha parityagi, no more karma. And gata vyathaha, he doesn't have any vyatha. That means even he's klesa rahita. Nobody can create any mental disturbance in him. He has a clear understanding. You can't provoke him. You cannot trap him to do something which you want. You are a political party. A lot of people are fighting amongst each other on Facebook because of their loyalty to some political formation. Wherever, in any part of the world, all of us are kind of deeply divided. But these people are kind of not tortured, not imposing any pain on them by getting trapped in these sort of conversations, because they're beyond all this. You cannot trouble them. So they got the vyatha. And yona hrishyati na dveshti na sochati na kankshati. And he doesn't have any harsha. He doesn't get super excited. He doesn't have any dvesha. Why is he mentioning all this? Because he already said adveshta sarva bhutana. This is explained by Ramanuja and others, saying this is a more specific explanation of what is explained earlier as a general principle. So freedom from attachment and aversion is a general attitude for this particular advanced level of Nirguna Upasaka. Here he is making a special mention of specific instances where this fellow is likely to be happy or sad, but doesn't turn out to appear as happy or sad because he has sort of disconnected internally from the causes of ignorance and ignorant behavior, which is false identification with the mind, with the body, with your past sanskaras and future dreams which you have nurtured because of such ignorance. He has disconnected, he has freed himself, and therefore he doesn't have any elation. He's not super happy. And he's also not dveshti, not sochati, na kankshati. He didn't get something he was expecting, he'll not cry. He wants something to come his way. No, he doesn't have those dreams or fancies. Subhasva parityagi. There could be something, some good things. And any subhasva could be papa punya. And because asubha parityaga, anyway, these are vidheyatmas. So asubha karma they will not do. Pratisiddha karma they will not do. Ishta karma they will do. But he's saying even these ishta karmas, what is good for you, they don't have any special craving for getting good results because they don't have bhokta bhava. They will do it only out of a sense of duty, whatever they're doing. Not because they want to have a big ashram or a college or anything, they're going to establish it. Well, there is need for an orphanage. There are a lot of poor children. They want to set it up for girl children. Yes, they might do it. A monk might do it. But he'll not do it because he gets any pleasure out of it. Like the story. There were, when Swami Vivekananda came to Haridwar, he found a lot of these babas, sadhus, who were not having any hospital to go and get free medicine. And a lot of them were seen to be suffering along the banks of Ganges, having fever and diarrhea and all sorts of physical ailments those days. So he sent two of his ashramites to say, you go there and take care of these monks, those who are struggling to get some medicine. And then what happened is there was a businessman who came to Kailash Ashram and he wanted to donate a huge patch of land, maybe about 100 acres or something. He wanted to donate it to Kailash Ashram. And that was the first head of Kailash Ashram. He was a truly spiritual person. And you know what he did, this Dhanagiri Maharaj? He said, look here, we have enough land, we don't need it. It's a Vedanta classes only we're doing it. But there are these two monks from Calcutta who are in Haridwar and they're taking care of patients. Why don't you give it to them? Maybe they would get some money to have a dispensary or a hospital. So the land was given to Ramakrishna Mission. And today that's one of the biggest hospitals there and in Haridwar. And a lot of people go, even common people, but monks especially, they do free treatment. Now you look at it. Are these monks who are doing service in that hospital? I have interacted with a few of them. They're doing complete, devotional work, thinking that this is a prayer to Lord Ramakrishna, and not doing it because they will get any recognition or anything. So that sort of people they are. So Subhasva Parityagi, they are not keen to do any health service or anything because they will get some punya. They have taken sannyasa, no such aspiration. Bhaktiman Yaha, the person who is having that bhajana, meditating on me, Same Priyaha. These are verses number 16 and 17. Let's look at Madhusudana Saraswati, because our Sankaracharya kind of, they are repeating each other, but if you cover Madhusudana, who is a little more elaborate, Sankaracharya is taken care of. We can come back to that, but basic meaning of Sankaracharya I have already covered. So, how he is explaining Nirapakya Suchirdakya. Nirapakya Sarveshu Bhoga Upakaraneshu. Whatever, Bhoga Upakarana, house, car, servants, anything, whatever you want to enjoy. Yadricha Upaniteshu api nispriha. By accident, a lot of things come your way. Somebody gives you a gift, maybe a encyclopedia set, or maybe a car, or some gold, some money, anything they might donate to you, but he is nispriha. He's not having super excitement for these things. Suchihi bahya bhyantara souja sampannaha. He has a pure body, he's clean. Maybe he's not very rich, has tattered clothes, but clean ones. So he wears clean clothes, he's taking a bath, taking clean food. And then abhyantara souja sampannaha. He also cleans his inside. How do you do internal cleaning? And one of the key things which is mentioned and again is taking the holy name, doing pranayama, and this paramartha satya chintana, and not thinking about the sansara, as Ramakrishna said. By distancing ourselves from sansara, we understand sansara better. And by connecting ourselves with Ishvara, we understand God better. So that was the secret he gave, and it applies here as well. Dakshaha, expert, adept. In what sense? Upastiseshu jnataveshu. Whatever he's supposed to know, remember, he's an expert in all that. Kartavyeshu, whatever is supposed to be done by him. Cha sadhya eva jnatum kartum cha samarthaha. He can know what is required and he can also do it. That means he can be a great karmakandi, but he doesn't do any of these things. Shankaranandi has a beautiful twist to this. He's saying Daksha means he's a Shastra Daksha. He knows Sankhya Darsana, Nyaya Darsana, Vyakarana, because how can he explain Vedanta to anyone? So to understand and to explain, he has the expertise. That is why he's mentioning, because he's not talking about Karmakandi, he is talking about Jnanis. So what is the expertise they require? They must be good at understanding. They must be having the required intellectual skills. That is what the interpretation he gives, which to us is fine and we can accept it. Udasina. And what is that udasina? Na kasyachid mitradehe. Maybe there are certain friends, but he doesn't take their sides. Paksham bhajate yaha. So, some people are supporters of, in India, some people are supporters of the Congress party, some people are supporters of the BJP party, and they kind of fight with themselves. He's saying that he's udasina. They sort of maintain distance, They don't get into politics. Gatabhyathaha parehi tadyamanasyapi gata no utpanna vyatha pida jasya saha. And it's like, what is the pida? Is it physical pain he's talking about? No. Any mental distress or anxiety or perturbation or some sort of mental agony because of certain event. He is free from this. And he becomes a little academic here to explaining Utpannayam api. Vyathayam apakartusu anapakartutvam kshamitvam. So there is a apakarta. What is apakarta? Who does apakara? What is apakara? Harm. So there is somebody who is going to cause you some harm. But you don't want to return the favor by doing some harm to him, which is laukika vyavahara. Generally, we want to take revenge. This fellow doesn't take revenge. He's a gatabhyatha. Then he's a kshami. There's already that adjective has come, that he has to be a kshami. He must be having kshama silata, ability to forgive. Then in addition, what is gatabhyatha? Vyatha kareneshu. So the cause of pain is there, but you are not feeling the pain. That is gatabhyatha. Somebody is saying something ill of you. That should ideally, in a normal circumstance, upset you. But you are not upset. You're smiling. Do you know he said this about you? Oh, really, he did? But you are not upset. Why? You know he's an idiot. And you know, even if he's so wise, you cannot, care less. You cannot, actually care for him because you are onto a different game. The game is known as Vedanta, looking for the self. So you overlook it. Of course, if you are having a work like somebody is trying to indulge in calumniation, trying to tarnish your business image or your brand or whatever, of course you need to talk to him, take legal action or whatever. Internally, you need to protect yourself. You do whatever is required externally, but internally you should be all the time sort of safeguard your purity from all this nonsense which is very external. Vyatha karaneshu tat satsu api anutpanna vyathatvam. So even if really there is a cause of pain which can cause some pain, you are not affected. Gata vyathatvam iti vedaha. Ahika amusmika falani sarvani karmani. So whether you want to have some results here, like taking an exam, buying a piece of land, building a good house and a car, these are from some results here, taking a good foreign tour. These are all things we do. And then you are doing certain other ritual because you want to go to heaven or anything from a traditional perspective. All these sarvarambha parityagi. He is not interested in any of these things. Sheelam Rishasaha Sarvarambha Parityagi Sannyasi Yomada Bhaktaha Same Priyaha. This sannyasi is very dear to me. What does it mean? Bhagavan is glorifying Nirguna Upasana, having said that the Saguna Upasakas are Yukta Tamas. So, and then in the next verse, he's saying, Samas Yona Hrishyati no Dvesti, Na Sochati Nakankshati, Subhasva Parityagi Bhaktiman Yaha Same Priyaha, Sama Dukkha Sukha. So he is having equal attitude towards pleasure and pain. It etad vibrunoti, he is explaining, Yona Hrishyati Ishtaprapto. Whatever you're aspiring for, suddenly you get it. Maybe you were appeared in an examination, you got a very good degree. You wanted to meet somebody, that fellow accidentally appears in your office. That is Ishta. Not dvesti anista prapto. You didn't want something, but that has happened. You invested, you got a loss. So that is anista prapti, but no dvesha. You're not experiencing any aversion or any anxiety. Na sochati. What is sochati? Prapte ishta yoge. You had got something which you wanted, but suddenly you lose it. That is prapta ishta yoga. You are losing something which you had aspired for and you got it, but you lost it. Na sochati. This fellow doesn't have any shoka. Is not, down with depression or sense of loss is not overpowering him. Na kankshati, and not running after or craving. Aprapte ishta sanyoge. He hasn't got it. He wants to have it. And therefore he indulges in some kind of daydreaming or some sort of aspirational thoughts. Any craving? No, he will not do it. Sarvarambha parityagi ityedat vibrunati. Subha subha. He has already mentioned that all karmas he will not do. Here, subha subhe sukha sadhana dukkha sadhane karmani parityaktum silam asyati. So there are certain activities which will give you subha phala, good result, auspicious result. Some things will give you asubha phalas, inauspicious, bad. This is a pejorative description, but he is not interested in any of these. Bhaktiman, because he is interested in devotion. He is at a very advanced level of connecting with the divine. So he has left behind much of what we call our lives. He is at a different level of what is life, pure, simple, straightforward. And therefore, Sami Priya Bhagavan said in verse number 17. Let's look at another two verses, then we'll reach the final verse. We need to complete it today. We have time to finish it. Samasatrau cha mitre cha tada manapamanayoh Sitoshna sukha dukkhesu samaha sangha vivarjitah. And it's kind of extension of what we studied right now. So he also sort of treats among human beings. Now he has dealt with situations and events. Now he's talking about human equanimity in social relations. You may have a few people who are friendly to you, a few people who are inimical towards you, who are your competitors, who would like to cut you down in your office. So he's saying samaha satro in case of the people who are inimical to him. Mitrecha, also the people who are friendly towards him. Chatatha mana pamanayoh. Some people might praise you, some people might do ninda, give you apamana, or trying to sort of cause an embarrassment to you. Then, similarly, this is the psychological thing. Then physical. Sitoshna sukha dukkhesu. The happiness and pain, or pain and pleasure associated with the physical events or physical stimuli that you have to go through or deal with. It could be high temperature. It could be a very congested office space. It could be you walking to a meeting and the AC isn't working. You have to make a presentation. You are sweating because you are wearing a thick jacket. How terrible is it? And then you are not agitated. He's talking about Sitosna Sukha Dukkeshu Samaha Sangha Vivarjitaha. Sangha is Phala Sangha generally in Bhagavad Gita. Sangha word is Asakti. Attachment to what? Not to individuals. The desired goal that you are expecting to fructify for you. But here Sangha Vivarjitaha, Madhusudana is giving a beautiful interpretation. Sangha Vivarjitaha Chetana Chetana Sarva Vishaya Shobhana Adhyasa Rahitaha. What is Shobhana Adhyasa? I'll tell you a story. So what happened? This was told to me by a very advanced monk of Ramakrishna order who is now right now managing the Geneva mission. I met him 4 years back, and he was telling that he was walking in a European city, and there was an extremely beautiful building, and he was walking with a senior monk, and he was mentioning a name which I don't remember. So he suddenly looked at him. He said, "Swamiji, Maharaj, what a beautiful building." And Maharaj, the senior monk, he just quietly smiled and he just said just one word. He said, Shobhanadhyasa. What is Shobhanadhyasa? Attributing beauty to something. The moment you attribute beauty, you are sowing seeds of desire there. Just imagine, in an office you have a colleague. Otherwise, you have a very rational relation. The day you start thinking good about that person, there is an emotional thing starts. And then third day he misbehaves with you, you get terribly upset. Because you have already established and you have sort of done a bit of sowing of seeds of some aspiration, some attachment vis-a-vis that fellow. He's a good guy, he's very saintly, he's very helpful, or he's very attractive. Certain things you have already created some delusion around your approach vis-a-vis him. Now he behaves. You have put him on a pedestal. He or she falls from that pedestal. He's swabhavika. He's behaving according to his or her requirements. But you are hurt or you are upset. Why? You have fixed him in a particular way in which you would like to see him or her. That's not his problem. That is your problem. That is Shobhanadhyasa. So a lady, she's fine, she's good, but then you attribute certain things to her. She is very good to me, she's very compassionate, she's very beautiful. Problem starts. And same with any senior, any student, any relative, any mother, father, anybody. The moment you do Shobhanadhyasa, like for example a car, you like a car, you look at that picture 3-4 times, then already the seed you have already sown. So you want to buy it now, and that's very expensive. So you need money. And then you are feeling uncomfortable. When can I buy that car? How can I dispose my old car? It's all result of Shobhanadhyasa. Sangha varjitaha. means not having the temptation to attribute beauty or to sort of, invest emotion in the external realities with which our senses are connecting. You see a piece of rasgulla or sweet, not a problem. The moment you start thinking it must be very tasty, the problem starts. Your mouth starts watering, isn't it? So that is the Sobhanadhyasa, that is Sanghavarjitaha. Broadly, this is how the 18th verse ends. I'll just look at Sankaracharya if there is something interesting to read, otherwise, we'll go to the next verse. Na kinchadiyoti rishyati na kapto sochati priya viyoge. What is sochana? Priya viyoge. Somebody you love, you lose. Priya could be a person, could be an event, could be anything that you have got. Nacha praptam kankhyati, that we have done it. Samaha iti samaha satru mitrisa. No, there is nothing extra. So, let's go to the verse number 19th then. Then, tulya ninda stutir mauni santusto yena kenachit aniketah stira matihi bhakti man me priyo naraha. Tulya ninda stutir mauni. Ninda and stuti. What is ninda? Somebody who speaks against you or speaks ill of you right in your front and finds a few faults in you. That is ninda. Of course, we have studied that ninda is not about the purpose of ninda is not to do ninda, but to do stuti of something which you are having aspiration for. That is our tradition. But you can also just do calumniation. You want to tarnish somebody or embarrass somebody. So you are what is called disparaging comments about somebody, indulging innuendos or stuff like that. So ninda. Then stuti is praise, and that is something everybody wants. Nobody gets most of the time, except when you are too powerful or somebody is expecting some help out of you, the indulgence and flattery or praise. So tulya ninda sutir mauni. So he doesn't get super excited about any words of praise or depressed about words of calumny. Then he is mauni, he doesn't speak too much. He is very controlled in his speech. He is not egotistic. Santushtaha, and then he's all the time contented. Well, we have already mentioned this word santushta already, that verse number santushta satatam yogi, verse number 14 is repeated here. Santushta yena kenachit, that is what is mentioned. Santushta there also in the commentary we understand that yadricha lava alam pratyaya, whatever comes he's happy. He doesn't have too much of questions. This is being repeated to give more importance to that aspect. Because santushti or santosha is kind of an antidote to craving, running after things. Yena kenachit, whatever comes, that minimum thing, you are happy. Aniketaha, niketa is nivasa, house. Aniketa means he doesn't have any stable place where he lives. Why? We are talking about sarvakarma sannyasi, so they are monks. But we are talking about historically monks who are moving around, but now they live in ashrams. They are in spiritual orders, but we have to reinterpret that aspect. Sthira matihi, look at it. Physically, he's roaming around, mind is stable. That is what is being mentioned by having two words together. Aniketa, sthira matihi. These days, people live in beautiful bungalows and houses or villas. They have sthira, basa. They have a particular place, very enjoyable place to live. But their minds are kind of all the time trapped in cycles of anxiety and depression and elation. They are all over the place. But here he's saying, even though he may be physically dislocated from time to time, that fellow is having a very steadfast mind. Why? That mind he has surrendered to the Lord, to that Paramartha Satya. Sthira Mati, and how he is Sthira? Because he is having bhakti. He has that devotion, not the Sankirtan type. Sarvam Vasudeva Miti. So he is having that truth orientation. So with the help of this truth orientation, he has a peaceful, stable mind despite physical dislocation or travel that he undertakes. The one who is having that sort of devotion is very dear to me. That's what Bhagavan says. Ninda dosha kathanam. What is ninda? Finding faults, fault finding. Stuti guna kathanam. talking about your good qualities. That is one of the best ways to lie about somebody. Once a friend of mine, he was a very good comedian kind of a person. I said, do you tell lies? He says, no, I never tell lies. I said, how do you know a person? He said, no, you don't have to lie. You find out what are his good qualities, then you tell it to him, and he does your work. So why do you have to lie? You don't have to lie. You just have to find out exactly what are his good qualities, mention it to him. And he used to always make fun of how people fall for words of praise. Te dukkha sukha. Dukkha sukha ajanakataya tulya jasya satatha. Now, these words of praise and calumny do not create any sukha or dukkha in a jnani purusha, in a self-aware person. That kind of a person is tulya ninda stutihi. And then mauni, sanyatavak, doesn't mean that he is in complete silence. He knows how to speak. He's not a loud mouth or motor mouth that he goes on telling things. So he's very he's reticent, not reticent. What do you call it? He's measured in his words. He is always very good at speaking right things at right moments. He doesn't indulge in inappropriate behavior with regard to use of speech. Then, nanu sarira yatra nirvahaya vagyaparo apekshita eva. But how can you live without speaking? Na ityaha. Then he's saying that Bhagavan says, no, it's not like that. Santushta yena kenachit. You have a lot of complaints if you don't have that secret called contentment. So you are arguing with everyone, but you have an attitude of equanimity. You don't have to speak too much. Many of your verbal efforts become useless. Swa prayatnam antarena eva. Valavat prarabdha karma upanitena. Even if you try to do not do any prayatna of yours, there is something called past prarabdha. So we are talking about sannyasis, not professionals, not professors, not politicians. So we have to keep that in mind. We are a very special category of people we are talking about. Those people think whatever happens is because of my past bad or good karmas. I shouldn't be bothered about it. Whatever happens, whatever appears in their life, they saying balavat prarabdha karma. So because of this powerful past karma, some good or bad might happen to them. Sarira sthiti hetu matrena asanadina santushtu nibrita spriha. Therefore, they don't have any craving, because whether food or sleep, whatever comes their way, they sort of take it in a stride. They are not thinking about tomorrow. They live today. Why? They have no past, no future. Why? Past and future applies to a person who is caught up in a mind and a body. The mind and a body have a past and a future. What doesn't have a past and a future? The self. The self is ever present. And they are ever present the moment they're aware of their self. And therefore, they don't have anything. They're all the time living in that moment of perpetual happiness. Externally, they could be having pain or whatever that we might see, but they are not perturbed at all by anything. Kincha aniketa niyata nivasa rahitaha, and they are also aniketa, they don't have a house to stay. Stiraha, however, they are stable. Paramartha vastu vishaya matir jasya sastiramati. They may have physical dislocations, but that mind is established in the Paramartha Satya, not about house, not about temperature, not about rain or sun or anything. They have that Paramartha Satya, and therefore they kind of beat the spriha in a positive way. It's not that they're apathetic or anything. They will be compassionate. They are vidhyatma. They are warm. They have emotions. They have everything. But they might do everything, but they are nowhere there. They're all the time establishing that inner truth which they carry with them. Idrisa yo bhaktiman saha sa me priyaha, and he's very dear to me. Atra punaha punar bhaktir upadanam bhakti eva apavargyasya pushkalam karanam iti dradhaitum. Why is he mentioning about these bhaktas again and again? Because he sort of wants to make it very clear that jnana and a bhakti, which is actually just two sides of the same coin, the more and more you meditate on me in a pure sense, that is the highest kind of bhakti. He has already mentioned Saguna Upasana. that you can do karma phala tyaga, you can do abhyasa, you can do mat karma, whatever. He has already done that prakarana. Now he's talking about the nirguna upasana. So that nirguna upasana itself is bhakti, and that doesn't involve use of cymbals or use of flutes or trumpets or drums or anything. It's all meditation on the self, and that particular bhakti is mentioned because that is the pushkala karana for removing whatever limiting constraints you have on your consciousness to feel that infinite existence of the truth, of the eternal presence of truth, which is Satchidananda Swarupa. Then Adveshta Ityadina Akshara Upasakadinam. So Adveshta, this starting with that verse, the Akshara Upasaka, Nirguna Upasakadinam, Jivana Muktanam Sanyasinam Lakhyana Bhutam, Swabhava Sistam Dharma Jatam Uktam. Then he's saying, that he will again clarify whatever is the Lakshana of the Jivana Mukta. These are all Jivana Muktas we are discussing. They are liberated even if they still have a physical body, and therefore they are nirapeksha. They are not having any further aspiration for anything. They have reached where all of us fantasize to reach someday, and therefore he's saying this is all mentioned about them. Now let's go to the next verse, which is the last verse. We have about 10 minutes to finish it. Utpanna atma bodhasya hi advestitva devo gunaha ayatnato bhavantyeva na tu sadhana rupinaha. Now, this is a beautiful verse that we have to keep in mind. Now, let's look at some of these adjectives that we used for the Nirguna Upasakas. Adveshta, Dvesarahitaha, Mitraha, Karunaha, Nirmamaha, Nirankaraha, Samadukha, Shami, Samadukha Sukhaha, Shami, compassionate, charitable, contented, Satatam Yogi, all the time meditating, Yatatma, Indriya Sanyami, and Dridha Nishchayaha, having firm conviction in the truth. All these things that we discuss, what he's saying, Utpanna Atma Bodhasya, Atma Ababodhasya. Once you have Atma Jnana, Hi Advestvadayo Gunaha. These qualities manifest on their own naturally. Ayatnato Bhavanti Eva. They are happening once you have Atma Jnana without any effort. Not to sadhana rupinaha. It's not that you are trying to achieve them. You don't reach there. Once you have Atma Jnana, why they are mentioning all this? We need to know what is the destination. And then whatever Bhagavad Gita has advised us so far, doing Nishkama Karma, Ishvara Upasana, Ishvara Buddhi, right? And then Indriya Sanyama and meditation that explained in chapter 6. We are in the end of this chapter 6. Do you know what are these Prakarana 6 chapters? Tat Padartha. Tvam Padartha, the Jiva, Paraka, all 1 to 6 chapters. 1 to 6 chapters. 7 to 12 is all about Ishvara. Tat Padartha. That is the last verse we are going to do. So he's saying that we need to understand the secret on which to meditate. Eta deva pura stita pragya lakshana rupena abhitam. So this Jivana Mukta, this stita pragya, he has that stability of mind. We want to reach there. Therefore, we need to understand what it requires to reach there. Tadidam dharma jatam prayatnena sampadyamanam mumukyoho moksha sadhanam bhavati iti pratipadaitum Pratipadayan Upasangharati. He's now going to conclude, having explained what it requires and what happens for a mumukshu who wants liberation. He does a lot of sadhana. Where does he reach? Yetu dharmamritam idam yathoktam paripasate sraddadhana mat paramaha bhaktastetiva me priyaha. Is finally concluding it about the Nirguna Upasaka. Yetu dharmamritam idam. This dharma, that amrita, that nectar, this is the dharma. This is the style of living. This is the game of life. This is the game of running after truth in the most spontaneous and balanced and harmonious way. The ones who understand yathoktam, what is yathoktam? What I've explained all right. This advesta and all those adjectives that I mentioned. Paripasate, they follow this, they do this upasana. Saddadhana, and they have that faith in me. Mat paramaha, and they think I am the ultimate destination. And that mat parama word means is not talking about the apara prakriti or any nama rupa. He's talking about the param brahma swarupa, nirguna, akshara rupa. Mat parama bhaktaha te tiva me priyaha, te ativa me priyaha. They're very close, very dear to my heart because they are ultimate jnanis, they are jivana muktas. So that is how Bhagavan sort of concludes this. Look at Madhusudana Saraswati and we'll look at Shankaracharya if there is anything extra. Ye tu sannyasinaha mumukshavah. Those who are the sannyasis and they are running after liberation, mumukshus. Dharmamritam. What is dharmamrita? What is that amrita which is dharma? Dharma rupam amritatva sadhanatvat. What is amritatva? Immortality, freedom from birth and death. And this dharma, this sannyasa dharma, this jnana bhakti dharma is going to give you amritatva, and therefore it's dharmamritam. Sadhanatvad amritavad, like nectar, like what guarantees you immortality. Amritavad aswadyatvad idam. So aswadyatvad vedam. So this is almost as tasty as nectar because it gives you immortality, the ultimate freedom from all limitations of human consciousness. Let's not have a theological interpretation of moksha. Why can't we say that moksha is essentially a freedom from all limitations we associate with human consciousness? That is the, that is freedom from the known to the unknown, as Krishnamurti used to say. Vedam yathokta adveshta sarva bhutanam ityadina pratipaditam. Whatever I mentioned, starting with verse number 13 till now, whatever. So these kinds of people, ityadina pratipaditam, yathoktam, that word is explaining. Paripasate anutishtanti, those who follow, observe the rules of this game. Prayatnena, with a lot of effort, a lot of yatna, that practice. Shraddhadanaha. So look at the game of Bhagavan Krishna. He asks Arjuna, do abhyasa, meditate on me, I cannot. Do abhyasa, I cannot. Do my karma, I cannot. Do karma phala tyaga. Okay? Arjuna may have bargained. We know from the verses. In case you cannot, you do this. You cannot do it, you do the lower order things. Then he's talking about here what? Yathoktam paripasate. He said, you cannot do all this, but look at that guy. He's so bright. He's a nirguna upasaka. And therefore, he's dear to me. So indirectly, he's telling Arjuna, do what you can. Aspire to do what you must. That is the word of care and compassion and love of a parental person in our lives. Do what you must, not a problem. But try to do what you should. Aspire to do what you should. That's what Bhagavan has done by mentioning whom he loves most, the Jnanis. Pratipaditam paripasata anutishtanti prayatnena sraddhadanaha santo matparamaha. So they are looking at me as the ultimate destination. Aham Bhagavan Aksharatma. Not that Nama Rupavan, but Aksharatma, Nirguna, Brahman. Vasudeva eva paramaha. That is the ultimate thing, parama thing. Praptobhyo niratisaya gatir yesa. This jnana, gati is jnana here, that niratisaya jnana, but there is nothing more to know or reach or find out. That is the ultimate destination. Gatir yesam, those sadhakas and bhaktas who are trying to reach that thing which is me, Param Brahma Swarupa, they mat paramaha. They are called mat paramaha. That means they treat me as the ultimate goal in their lives. Bhaktaha mam nirupadikam brahma. It clarifies it that they are looking for that nirupadika Brahman, not the Murlidhari, Basuri Vadaka Vasudeva, but beyond all forms, nirupadika Brahma, bhajamanaha, and they're doing that bhajana, not with sankirtana, but with manana, nididhyasana, shravana. Ativa me priyaha, they're very close to my heart. Priyahi jnanino atyartham aham sacha mama priyaha. Verse number 7 of the 7th chapter. Iti purva suchitasya ayam upasangharaha. That is how he's concluding what he had mentioned in this chapter 7. Yasmad dharmamritam idam sraddhaya anushti ishtana bhagavato vishnuho parameshwarasya ativa priyo bhavati तस्माद् इदं ज्ञानवतः स्वभावसिद्धतया लक्षणमपि मुमुक्षुणा आत्मतत्त्वजिज्ञासुना आत्मज्ञान उपायत्वेन यत्नाद् अनुष्ठेयं विष्णोः परमं पदं जिगमिषुना iti vakyartha. So what he's trying to say is Bhagavan has mentioned all these lakshanas of the Parama Bhakta and the Jivana Mukta and Atma Jnani. Why? Because then what is lakshana of this ultimately self-realized souls is our upaya. We will use that knowledge. That is the destination we want to reach. And we'll follow Bhagavad Gita to meditate on Bhagavan, free from raga dvesha, so that we can reach that particular place. Tadevam sopadika brahma abhidhyana paripakat nirupadikam brahma anusandadhanasya adveshtritvadi dharma visishtasya. So we do Saguna Brahma Upasana, then the mind is purified, Bhagavan blesses us, the mind has focus, it has that stillness, it has that sharpness, then we graduate without raga dvesha towards Nirguna Brahman Upasana. And then what we do, Adveshta Adi Dharma Visishtasya. Then of course, once we are fixed in that ultimate destination, the samsara loses its charm for us. Then we become Adveshta Sarva Bhutana. We have no enmity towards anyone. We are full of love and compassion for all. And we have charity, we have forgiveness, a forgiving attitude, we have all that. Then that sort of consciousness, when we achieve Mukshasya Adhikarinaha, we become Muksha Adhikari. Not the Gauna Adhikari, we will do Saguna Upasana, Sravana Manana Nididhyasana, Anya Vartayato. So we'll do that abriti, Sravana Manana Nididhyasana, we do a lot of Abhyasa, and we perfect that Chintana and awareness of the Tat Padartha. That is the last chapter of the Tat Padartha Paryaya of 6 chapters. Vedanta Vakyartha Tattva Sakshatkara Sambhavat Tataha, because we have the Vedanta Tattva Sakshatkara, Tattva Darshana, that Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, all the Upanishad Vakyas we study, and then Tata Mukti Upapattehe, Mukti Hetu Vedanta Mahavakyartha Anvayaha, Anvaya Yogyaha. We are able to do a proper understanding, grasp the implication of the meaning of the Mahavakyas. Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi. These are the Mahavakyas. And then we get what is the inner meaning of it. Jiva Brahma Ekatva Eva. Yogyaha Tat Padartha Anusandheya. So, Tvam Padartha Sodhana, purification of the understanding, self-understanding, meditation on the Tat Padartha, Ishvara Tattva. Iti Madhyamena Satkena Siddham. The 6 chapters we finish from 7th till 12th. This is over. This is how we come to the end of the chapter 12. And in Sankaracharya, it's more or less same. There is nothing extra, and therefore we have also kind of crossed the time, so I stop here. If you want, we can do a summary of it. Otherwise, we'll start the chapter 13th tomorrow. I just want to tell you one thing. Chapter 13th is perhaps one of the most difficult chapters, but perhaps the most chapter with a lot of secrets about Vedanta. So it's all about the Vedanta Tattva. It's about both Jiva and Brahma, because you have Tvam Padartha Sodhana, then Tat Padartha understanding. We have Jiva and Ishvara. Now the Samanvaya, Jiva Ishvara Samanvaya, starts in chapter 13. And it's the first 2 verses itself are very challenging, very easy to understand, but you have to grasp them. It's a little challenging in the commentaries. So I would request you to have a look at whatever books you have before we start. And once we finish chapter 6, the next most difficult or most interesting chapter is chapter 15. The rest of the chapters are like here and there. It will be not very challenging intellectually. The chapter 13 is kind of the heart of Vedanta in the Bhagavad Gita. So I look forward to more sessions with you. So we stop here today. You can ask your questions, but we'll do the Santi Mantras otherwise. I'm putting an end to the YouTube.